Need to formally open.
No, we're just going to open it. On, ready to go.
There you go.
All right, there we are. So, all right. Well, good evening. Before we get our regular board meetings opened up, we're going to start this evening with a public hearing. This is the community block development grant or an economic development program. I think we have a couple presenters tonight. Maybe you bring a PowerPoint. No, no. I believe the board, we've all received the application and whatnot. We've all had a chance to read through it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Max, you might have some questions for you if you want to start. Come on, introduce yourself, even though we know who you are, but
Bring two chairs if you want.
you guys can come up together. Yeah. Yeah. You want to slide your chair up, come up together?
If there's some business.
We're going to bring you up there. So yeah.
Hello, I'm Max Johnson with Midcoast Council of Governments, also a resident here in Damariscotta. I'm just assisting Desjardins or Chalmers with the Community Development Block Grant Economic Program. Last year, we did try to apply for capacity, but they withdrew before we could start the drawdown funds.
Stop.
As I spoke with the state about this, they said that we could still consider a different business if we are fine going through the process that we're doing right now. Susan has said that she could use $60,000 for some improvements for her business. And so here we are.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Max?
You have.
And you had
I
a
had-
clarification.
I
on-
had yes. What is a certified opportunity zone?
Most towns don't have to worry about that one. So back in 2016 or 2017, the federal government created a program called Opportunity Zones, and that's where they emphasize to having some business development, and they'd get some financial incentives.
Okay.
Damariscotta is not a opportunity zone. This is more outside Portland area, some former mill towns. Damariscotta is not one of them.
Okay.
Kind of present that we're not an opportunity zone. That's it's harsh, Max.
That's not me. That was the governor back then.
Okay. Jeez. Opportunity zone.
You're open for business, bro.
Oh, no. I'm gonna advertise that. Well,
I think they only selected I think you can only select a few certain areas, and so
yeah.
Oh, we
So it
could
doesn't-
say, we could have a proclamation that we're an opportunity.
You want to make a motion? Okay, that's great. Is that all
Yeah.
there?
Yes.
Yeah. Susan, do you mind if we do you mind introducing yourself? Is some we're gonna if you want to come on up or grab the mic there. So
It's fine.
yeah,
That's fine.
so we can pick up the sound. Okay. Yeah, just good.
I'm Susan Chalmers. I have a small business down the street. We make natural bath and beauty products. We're involved with the local farmers market. I'm actually the treasurer for Damariscotta's market. And we sell online. And we've been having wonderful increases and we can't keep up with the demand. Additionally, we'd also like to launch and expand quite a bit the products that we're making. I say we, but it's me. So I'd like it to not just be me anymore. And that's sort of where this grant comes in.
Yeah, you're looking for put two full-time
Two full-time
employees back on in
equivalents.
the same area in the same spot.
And that'll allow us to expand the local farmers markets that we're doing and also keep up with the production. We're going to be launching quite an extensive upgrade to our website. And looking at the metrics, that's going to mean an even higher demand, and we're already struggling to keep up. So some other people making soap with me would really be helpful. And that's what it comes down to.
I was impressed with the sales, your sales growth.
Oh, yeah. It's been kind of insane.
That in a chart. That's
It's definitely headed up, and then we're continuing that way, which
Yeah.
is
That's awesome.
amazing.
Anybody have any questions?
I think it's great.
Susan?
No,
Yeah.
I very good presentation.
Yeah. This is well put together. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So, are we gonna need is there any motion on this afterwards? This is just a head nod, keep going.
Just
So,
have to go.
Yep.
So this is just to satisfy the public hearing process. There is
Yeah.
also, I believe on Monday for the planning board's agenda, this will be up there because there is a change of use. I believe that has to,
Okay.
they have to review the
Mhm.
use of the
Planning board.
property, right? It's
Correct.
part of their process.
We're a home occupation right now, which would limit me to two employees.
gotcha.
The two full-time equivalents, I'm hoping it to be two part-time and one full-time.
Okay.
So we need to upgrade
All right.
to the
Awesome.
full business versus the home occupation.
I think you're getting a head nod from the board. It's nothing
And it also,
official, but yeah.
by doing the planning board meeting this early, then when we get to phase two, that she doesn't have to come back to the planning board. Which
Gotcha.
would delay a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, it's just it's just the town signing off on these documents.
Yeah, you're moving ahead on it. So no, that's awesome. We're happy to support you. So yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other, not hearing any other questions or comments? We'll close the public hearing. Oh, that wasn't bad. Yeah.
Well, then
So,
expected.
no PowerPoint.
Still selling vanilla?
Yes, yeah, all the bacon extra.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Max. Yep. All right. Okay, so with that, thank you. We're gonna move on to I'm gonna open the Board of Assessors meeting, call the Board of Assessors to order for March 1st for the town of Damariscotta. So I think we got a gentleman right there that's gonna, yeah, come on up. We get the hot seat for you here. So, yeah, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a long day.
Yeah. All right. State your name for the record.
Robert Duplessis, assessor agent.
We'll let you start off whenever you're ready. You.
We had one small correction here. The actual abatement papers you'll be signing had a small change to it. So I'll reissue those to you. Just one, they all sign. So, the one we were actually signing, copies for them to look at it.
Just gotta pick one and have them sign one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We had four abatements, some housekeeping issues for the most part. The first abatement was to Michael and Patricia Cahill Trust. Last year, they put the property into a revocable trust, which still qualifies them for homestead. However, the trustee was their son who lived in Wiscasset. And as part of course, this is kind of a new thing. We removed the homestead because there was nothing in the document that said that they were personally responsible for the taxes, which would give them the homestead. Back and forth with them, and if it was an irrevocable trust, they do not qualify. This was a family trust and it doesn't say revocable. So after speaking with my friend and attorney, it turns out to be that it defaults to a revocable trust. So they do in fact have personal liability for that homestead. So after meeting with them last month, we said, well, our decision was wrong. So he's deserving of it. And it's a bigger one for them. So the abatement for the abatement 2023-5, $378.79. That's the change from the original that you have on your paperwork. Our certified ratio is less than 100. We threw the full 25 in there and Andy caught it. Should be 22,750. So the abatement is slightly less. They haven't been notified of anything yet. I don't send out a notice to them until the board approves it in case there's a question. So there was that one. And the bigger thing for them is the Cahills do qualify for the property tax stabilization. You need to be homestead qualifying to be eligible for that as well. So that's a big one for those people to have that. But we straightened that all out. And they were happy with that outcome. Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. And the next one, 23-6, Bangor Savings Bank. This is kind of a little egg on our face where the Bangor Savings Bank tore down that big building behind Main Street, being new, fairly new. Hearsay or whatever, we never really got any sort of official notice that it was gone. Bad part about being the new guy on the block. So the bank got in touch with us and said that they came in for a demo permit, which we expected to see when they tear down something like that. But the code enforcement officer at the time told them it wasn't required. So we missed it.
Yeah, we don't.
You don't require any.
Permits. Yeah, don't require them. So.
Yeah, it's a good reminder, maybe something that
Yeah.
we could think about. This sometimes will happen and we don't have a process to notify that we've lost the
Right.
building. And on the other side, like the spring work, right? Or leading up to revals or something like that, you realize, oh, we just lost a lot of value. Oh, it's been lost. We
Absolutely.
just didn't realize it, and they've been getting taxed more
Yeah.
than they should.
Yeah, and they
have.
get
We
things
didn't
on it,
notice
so,
that it
yeah.
came down.
Right, yeah, we'd go out and look at that with our normal building permits. So if there's something the town could do, like have a no fee permit for a demo permit, just something so we know to look at it. So
Yeah, it
just
would help you guys with your records.
embarrassing, but
Yeah.
you know, it happens. So,
That's a little bit on, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's, and it came down just before April 1st, came down March 14th of last year.
Yeah.
And that's $6,278.72. Just from my understanding now, what's anything going to become of that lot that the old building was on?
It's not buildable.
There's been no anything formal that's been submitted to the planning board or.
Been coming through the town, yeah.
I heard that it wasn't buildable.
Oh.
Well, at the time of the demo, because we had that,
But
my agent and I had that conversation too. Do we need to look at
Right.
the land value as well? But
Right.
you demo a building, you got a year to rebuild it.
Mhm.
So we, you know, at the time of the demo, it was possible to rebuild it. But come next March, next assessment time, we will have to treat that as we'll just combine it with the other land they own up front.
Yeah, right.
But we
yeah.
didn't reduce the land value for that reason. It still could be rebuilt on, but
oh,
not.
it could be.
Within, the grandfathering is within a year.
A year.
A grandfathered lot for size. If the building is removed, demolished or whatever, they'll have 1 year to rebuild it.
Do we know why they tore down all those apartments?
She may have mentioned it to Ed. I mean, I didn't get those details.
Yeah, you wouldn't. know.
Supposedly the
Yeah.
building wasn't in that great a shape, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard anything. You haven't had anything come through yet, so we'll see what.
So on the radar, but that will just adjust it ahead of
Yeah.
time, so the
Yeah.
value will go down, so.
I mean, there was just a conversation this past summer with someone from the bank about, I mean, they got that part of it still in a fence, and I think their hope is to at least, you know, make that so that can disappear at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
And Pretty,
There's some
that
extra
transition with that
parking.
building was kind of, they have to do something with the parking lot to grade it off in a way that could be traversed or navigated, so I think
Gotcha.
that's as far as it really
Yeah,
went there.
okay. So right now it's just a lot and we'll
Oh,
we'll keep an eye on it.
yes, we will, very closely. So we're all good with that one too?
Yeah.
23-7. Forrest Hunt, Karen Hunt Living Trust. They ended up acquiring two deeds, two pieces of land in one deed, I should say. And we only transferred one of the pieces to them. The second piece stayed in the old owner's name. Looking back on the deed, it was an old deed, was very ambiguous, kind of hard to follow, and it wasn't clear. So we erred on the side of caution and had a mistake there. So they all know about it. They're the one that brought it to our attention. Everything's been processed, just a matter of abating and supplementing those two. No change in the $672 at stake. The new owner will get the same bill, so no loss there. So.
Right.
The last one we have, 23-8 Howard Plummer. This mobile home was sold back in 2021. And with a mobile home, there's no deed produced because there's no land involved. So we have to rely solely on the owner or the new owner to bring in a copy of the bill of sale. We like to send mobile home park owners a request to give us a list of all their current owners so we can kind of catch it that way. And we've really been talking to the mobile home park owner here to get that going. But this is, I think it's just a building on somebody's lot. Either way, we had no way of knowing that it transferred until they came in and said, I don't own this anymore.
Hmm.
So we're just correcting that one. Okay. And I'm gonna guess that also it was sold to the new owner and it was taken out of town. This isn't an abatement and supplemental. They took it out of town without a moving certificate. You're required to get a trailer moving certificate
Right.
to have something with you if you get stopped to prove that the taxes were paid. So. Other than that, that is all I have.
That's it. Any questions or anything on those?
The abatements, you just cover the supplementals too.
Yeah, the only supplemental is going to be that the land that was abated for Forrest and Karen Hunt.
Supplement.
And then there should be a supplemental with that.
Yeah.
So for them, I think those would be two actions. I had the abatement as it was presented, and Tom's got the updated version here,
Okay.
reflecting 2023-5. And then we just need to pick one of the. I think Rob's got the supplemental tax piece there. If there's anything, if there's anything to sign on that one.
So the abatements, you can do the abatements in one motion and approve.
I'll just make a motion to
do.
approve all abatements that have been presented by our assessing agent.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, carries. Thank you, Judge.
Make a motion to approve the supplement as presented by our assessor's agent.
Seconds, any discussion? All those in favor? All right.
Supplemental
Okay.
certificate is in your packet as well.
Yes.
I have a
Yes,
copy of it.
yeah, I know I saw it in there
You want
somewhere, but
all of us to sign this one, right?
Yes, please.
yeah, we can sign it when you're through, so, okay. That any questions for
No, just,
anybody? Yeah.
we talked last time I was here about a little, factoring coming up for this year. Still going forward, I think the market hasn't changed, hasn't been anything selling really. The
Yeah,
inventory is down so
stagnant.
low, it's been crazy, so. After April 1st, I will put together a spreadsheet and come up with some suggested factors for the board, and we can talk about that.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds
Income
good.
stabilization program. There's a lot of changes coming, nothing's official yet, so we're kind of stuck with the way it was written last year. All the applications for people who would qualify had to be in by the 1st of December. Well, I'm kind of waiting to put them into our software in case it changes. It's a daunting task to put every one of those in there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of letting it go, and we have to notify everybody, which we're preparing a little, very, very basic. Maybe even a postcard to everybody, letting them know that they did qualify. People who didn't qualify, we've been reaching out to them little by little, and we'll have something more formal to them because we have to give them a reason for denial.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Rob, when is the reimbursement from the state from that program?
The deadline for them to reimburse us for the 2023 is January 15th of 2024. And I can't say for certain what percentage we're going to get reimbursed. That's one of the big questions we have. We just don't know. The state has not.
They're promising 100%, but they can go as low as 50%
It
is what I
can go
told
as low as 50%.
Yeah.
See, the biggest challenge with that is when we do the homestead exemption, veterans exemption, the Betty exemption, when you guys sign the mill rate calculation sheet at commitment time, you'll see the process where if we give away $10 million in homestead value and we're getting $77.2 million back from the state, well, the tax for that 7.2 million is included in the mill rate. We know we're going to get those dollars back from the state. So we count on them at the time of commitment, keeps the mill rate down here. But what we don't know about this stabilization is how that's going to be factored into the mill rate. It should be, if all of our qualifying property means that there's a $50,000 gap because they're stabilized at last year's tax amount. The best thing to do is that $50,000 gap gets factored into the mill rate calculation. So mill rate stays low, knowing that the dollars are coming back from the state, even if it isn't until January, we get them all back. The executive director of property tax in one of my Zoom meetings says, that's not how it's done. We're going to reimburse you by January 15th. And that's all he said. I'm not saying that that's how it's written in law or anything like that. Yet that was his interpretation. The problem with that is if we're $50,000 light and we're going to get it back from the state later and we don't include it in our mill rate, we have to raise that $50,000 from everybody else. The mill rate's going to be up here. We get the money back by next January 15th. And for the town meeting, we have to maybe have a blanket warrant article anyway. Warrant article that allows us to take the $50,000 from the state to reduce next year's or the following year's commitment. So we're always going to be a year behind. There's going to be a gap there. The gap's going to grow as the mill rate grows, as the people who are in this program increase the value of their homes. It's all, there's so many what ifs and so many ways to wiggle out of this. we don't know what was gonna happen, so we're just kind of waiting. They're supposed to be taking it up at the state level this month, but for this year, it's not gonna be a big difference. For the most part, we're gonna see if that mill rate goes above 1665. That's the gap that we have to collect. And if it goes below 1665, that is a whole other can of worms that I don't even want to talk about tonight. Because we have to recalculate everybody's gap. But we don't know what the gap calculation is until we do the new mill rate, and it's just secular in nature, but
Yeah.
I bet it's not gonna be a problem here.
It's not gonna be a problem.
I didn't think so.
I was telling him, I think we had about 180 that had submitted before the deadline this year. That we put in the spreadsheet. Not that they all qualify per se, but it's not that they won't, but.
Right. There's a lot of money involved. I did this, we had all put together something for MMA. And I grabbed like 10 of my towns that I represent and figured out the stabilization amount for every one of these towns. I had 10 towns, had about $300 million of value at stake here.
Yeah.
So, you get just a small increase in the mill rate is a huge difference, but I expect it to be corrected before it really perpetuates into anything significant.
Oh, you
But-
think they correct it before it was even implemented?
Yeah, we're really hoping that, and I can't say that out loud because I don't really know. There was a group of assessors and town managers that got together to make a suggestion. And we're just kind of wait to see if the state likes that suggestion. It was a great idea, but then they threw an income tax requirement on it, which takes us that we can't do anything about
Mhm.
that. So I just don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah, I'm just scared for a municipality that we may go behind,
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
I don't want to do that.
You don't know what they're right, right.
No,
Yeah.
and I feel bad for these small towns. They don't have a lot of, reserves.
Mhm.
And that gap can be
Care
to a
to
point where
carry
they're gonna
that,
have to get they'll have to get a tan to
Mhm.
cover it, so. But
Yeah.
we will, as soon as we have an answer that it's not gonna change for this year, we'll get them into our software. Get the notices out to everybody. I'm just waiting for that change because it's 180 of them, and the way the software has been updated, we have to actually type in the tax that they're stabilized at, instead of just grabbing it from the other side, actually type it in. We'll do what we have to do, but I don't want to have to do it for no good reason, so.
While we're still in the assessors meeting, just to make sure we're all on the same page of when the target is for commitment this year. I think last year when I came on, we were in August before we, I think, did the final commitment.
Mhm.
But my understanding is we want to do it
The
in
second-
July?
Second one, the deadline is the third Wednesday of July.
Easily done,
talked about that with the contract.
easily done, right? Yep, not a problem.
Then we can have everything
Yeah.
settled and.
I mean, March is here now, so we'll start getting copies of permits from the code guy, and we'll stay on good days, we'll start going out now. Because last year we were kind of playing catch up. Now we're in pretty good shape, so. Okay,
Sounds good. Anything else?
I'm good.
that supplemental's been signed.
Do you have the fresh cup? We got ones in the packet, and so they're double sided, so I don't think it's one that we'd want to per se sign, but do you have a supplemental there that Ed gave us?
Let me take this.
You can leave
Maybe
it,
that's good.
or put it, yeah, you can put it on your desk. We can grab it tomorrow. I think there's no lines on it, so I missed it the first time when we looked at it.
Oh,
It's got their names though.
Oh, for this, the supplemental one? Yes.
Yeah, just the one page, and it has both
What do
of
you
them
got
on there.
there, Daryl?
this one, supplemental tax certificate and warrant?
There it is.
That one?
Was
This
it?
one's sitting in front of me.
Sorry.
The other one was wrong, the abatement, so the supplemental should be.
Yeah, this one's
Oh,
fine.
that
Yeah,
one should
I didn't even see in front of me.
Yeah, so that's where it is. He's
Yeah.
putting the thing over there.
Yeah, so you've got our names on it, so.
Yeah.
What would that
Looking
sneak
over
sneak
there.
that in on me?
It's over there.
Lord. All right.
Too much dust floating around.
It might be. Yes. It's all coming up. All right, we can sign that and then we'll adjourn and move on to our next one with other hats on here. Huh? Yeah.
Get back down now.
Yeah. All right. More
That is the
signatures,
right
gentlemen?
one, right?
Yep, so
That is the right one.
that's the one we just had. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
that's the one right there, so.
That's nice.
You see it show up there.
Let's see it. Drink it on.
No, did we not have to go through these two things?
We already did them.
we already did those. Those are the abatements.
Oh, though they
Wrong
just
conversation. Yeah,
attached.
yeah,
Okay,
we can do
fine.
all those.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Smart.
Thank
All good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for putting up with us.
No worries.
You're up. All right, so I hear a motion to adjourn the.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the Board of Assessors.
Thank you, Josh. I think Tom seconded. All those in favor? Okay, with that, we'll open up the next meeting. So now we're going to call the select board to order for March 1st. We can go through some housekeeping here. Everybody had a chance to see the minutes?
Nope, because you didn't get them done.
Yeah.
Slacking.
Sorry, I'll throw you under the bus there. We'll table the minutes. No problem. Yeah. All right, financial reports. We have a payroll warrant, I believe number 41.
I'll move payroll warrant 41.
Thank you, Josh. I'll second. Oh, I'm gonna give that to Lou. Lou's gonna second that.
Who seconds all the?
Yeah, I know. Yes. Getting ahead of him. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that moves. Accounts payable number 42.
I'll move accounts payable warrant 42.
Thank you, Josh. Lou, you want
Second.
that one? All right, Lou's got that one as well. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. The citizen comments and general correspondence, you got anything, mail handy or anything there?
Nothing significant, I'll say, just general, we had some complaints about Heater Road before last week. I did have some stone put in there while it was soft before we got this round of snow here, so knowing the trucks were gonna be going in there, we were able to
Yeah.
hopefully when the snow melts again and it gets wet again, hopefully it's a little firmer.
was a
But
quagmire.
it continues
Holy
to
moly.
be
Yeah.
an issue really until we get that last signature. So just had a few complaints there and generally had a couple complaints about just generally plowing.
Yeah.
Nothing significant or big, but just the timing of it or I think a couple days, not this one from today, but last week, there was some concern, I think, on Lesnar Road. There's slush or something. So I have those, just in the office here. I can put them in the road book there just to keep all the complaints, but by the time I get out there, it was either melted or dealt with. Thank you. But other than that, nothing significant.
Sounds good.
So how far did we go putting stone in on the Heater Road?
How far? We went to the town drive and into the drive,
Okay.
into the
I'm just
property there.
making sure we didn't go any further than we had to.
Yeah, and I had us, I don't think we started, I think we put a little bit of gravel at the end there where it gets closer to the asphalt, but didn't really pick up the stone really until you got closer to the storage unit drive there.
Yeah.
It was real bad.
Yeah. Where you could just see the roofs of the cars at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Always living on the dirt road, man.
I mean, the good news is that we need to put something bony in there anyways, and I just tried to put a little bit in there for now and not trying to do the whole thing, but
We didn't plow it off after, did we?
the other morning we did push a little bit off the side, but most of the stone looked like it stayed there. It pulled it up a little bit, but it stayed there. But with the temperature, it did lock it in a little bit, and it wasn't egregious or a lot, but
Okay.
yeah, seems to be locked in for pretty well at the moment.
Good.
We'll see what happens as it thaws again or melts.
I don't know, this weekend or whatever, so. Okay. I don't see anybody on Zoom there. Do we have anybody still a few stragglers in the audience here? Oh, any public comment or no hands up? All right.
Looks like we got a
I,
attendee tonight.
we do.
We needed-
Did you miss the meeting last time? You were here, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm just checking to see if anybody can hear me.
You guys didn't make it, yeah, yeah.
So we'll need a good debate.
So we need a debate.
I missed it last night.
night.
I don't know if I can recover from the ceilings.
Oh. Well, we can put you on the spot and have you come up and introduce yourself if you want.
Here. You don't have to.
No, thank you for coming. Yeah. Try to make it lively for you, so. All right, well, we'll move on. Yeah. So Andy, you've got some capital project updates,
Well,
some
not
good ones?
not a ton necessarily in terms of forward progress at the moment, but unfortunately, Hodge with Hodgson Street and Miles Street, we're working with Gartley and Dorsey. Andrew, who's our engineer that we work with, he's been out sick for the last week. They've had some other folks before that were helping finish up the bid specifications on Hodgson Street in particular, that's still needing to be finalized. I expressed concern with Andrew yesterday about getting in touch with Terry Ann at CBDG to make sure she knows it is coming, because it was promised a few weeks ago. So I think we're running close to a year on that. So they want to know there is progress coming. So I've expressed concern with making sure that happens. And I was told that she'd have it very soon. So I'll bug them again tomorrow or Friday to make sure that that's happening and try and make sure we get that in before we close the door on something like that. That opportunity there. I don't want to see us lose that.
No.
But it is literally just waiting for that final review to go out, and then we can put that out to bid. Miles Street, we did get revised phase 1 bid numbers, revised in the sense there was some additional water line work in particular that was identified. We had to capture the upsize and the culvert from, I think, 42 to 48 inch, I believe we were going to do, because we were going to get through that intersection at Schooner and get into the water lines. It would provide the opportunity to get a little bit bigger. So there was, I believe, a close to $7,000 or $10,000 change in that culvert upsizing. If we went with that on the water side for phase 1, it presented with a pretty substantial increase on that. I think it was about $60,000 more with the additional valves that were added and the upsize in the pipe and some of there's a fire line that runs in there that I think sounds like it's separate that feeds the fire hydrant. So they were going to try and tie that in. I think that was identified at $15,000 in of itself just to work around that.
Just to get the,
But that's on their end though.
It is on their end, but it does impact. It does impact the ability for them to say we can go forward. We have the same restriction here. And, if we add too much to it, there is a cap on the amount of money we can put into this. So we met yesterday with Brooks, with the hospital's representative and Andrew to talk about, being prepared to go back to the phase 1 footprint. If we just can't do it, phase 2 numbers came back higher than what was estimated. Again, some of that driven by water work, some of that driven on our side. There was a bid was an alternative, but an additional drainage piece that we had spec'd out as an additional piece going in on that right hand side of the road off of Bristol. So it would improve that and create a better ditch swale, or I guess reclaim maybe what used to be there at one point, more of a ditch
In front of the house there.
Yeah, and then there was 2 cross culverts there's 2 driveways there, the sanitary district pump station, and then the driveway above it there. So there'd be 2 pipes replaced. There's some pipes in there now, but they'd be called to be replaced and have that ditched going back up to Bristol Road. There's a fair amount of water that they anticipate that does run down along there. So we'll have to do something. But that was about a $65,000 cost to do that.
Really?
So
Really?
that's one that we said maybe we can. We got to do something there for drainage, but maybe we can, that's off the asphalt. And maybe we can do that as another piece. And so we're working through with Brooks and the engineer right now to figure out what is needed and what can we afford to do before we come back with any contract or anything to sign. We still haven't signed a contract. We're still operating on the notice of intent to award and trying to move quickly because there's a narrow window at this point to be able to get this done before summer. As the contractor put in. So that's what my thought was, and Brooks's as well, I believe. If we have to, what can we scale back? Let's get phase 1 wrapped up. And then we'll go back with what's left and plan to do phase 2 at some point, whether it's the fall or next fall.
We gotta move on, at least with phase 1, whatever, and get 65,000 seems very high for that.
And it's a lump sum was what was given to us, so it's hard to really see the breakdown. We have the bid specs and you can see the work that's to be done, but
And that's all for phase 2 or for the whole thing?
just the
'Cause we
phase
have
2
to-
section.
Phase 2.
Okay.
We can do phase 1. We have the money for phase 1 between the hospital, the town and
Including
the
increase in
donations.
The size of the.
That's one of the things that's on the drawing board, right?
Culvert.
Do we need to go to the additional size or not? I mean, we're calling for 42, which is an increase, I believe, from, I think it's 36 at the moment, at 32, somewhere in that range. So it's already going to be an increase, a pretty good increase from that.
Right.
So I think that's something we talk about. I mean, that's a good chunk of money still.
Yeah, but that's 8,000 is nothing like 65,000.
So
Yeah.
something we know, something will have to happen. I mean, at the very least, you probably clean that shoulder and, try and do some kind of swale through there. Maybe, I mean, for now, it continues to erode the side of the road there. And if we don't do that part of the road work now, then probably we'll keep it the way it is. But when we do that section of road, we'll have to do something through in there so we don't lose that pavement edge. But can hold off. We might have to hold off at the moment. So hopefully the next meeting, I'm hoping that we can bring you at least the phase 1 contract to try and sneak that in before the summer.
Yeah,
Because didn't we say we would like it to start in March?
Yeah.
it's gotta, yeah.
Well, we wanted it done before summer and the contractor was able to say, he thought he could be done by
But he
June.
could do it 3 months, but March, April, May or whatever.
Yeah, and there's a big difference, obviously, if we're just gonna do that phase 1 or go all the way out to Bristol Road. So
This is March.
Yes, it is.
Mhm.
First, yeah.
one of the other issues with that phase 2 and going to Bristol Road with the increase in prices, the bid specs didn't call for anything for temp water. And so
Right.
there's a couple of good size bid amounts in there in that package to have a contractor come in and tap the live main.
They give us a live tag. yeah,
And so
live
that comes at a
taps.
pretty good cost. And I think there's 2 of them that have to happen. And then there was no account for traffic control because they were going to be, well, not as much traffic control because with the phase 1, they were going to be able to divert traffic on Schooner Road for the most part and keep stuff flowing through that entrance. Or at least in one way and maybe out through the parking lot. But
Yeah.
if they go all the way to Bristol Road, that whole thing's shut down. And now there's got to be traffic control at the
Sure.
bottom of the hill. And they're concerned about what it means coming up over the hill from the south there.
Right.
So
changes
they'd
the-
have to put someone up at School Street probably. You can't get 2 cars through the parking lot at entrance at the same time. So it's only one at a time in through there. So there was some additional traffic control that wasn't accounted for in there as well. That had a pretty sizable number tied to it.
65,000.
Yeah.
So again, trying to scale it back and being prepared to just
So
go back
for-
to phase 1 if
We're
we need
leaning
to.
towards
and-
phase 1 at this point. What are you thinking timeline wise with the engineers to say, let's, I know you're shooting for next.
Right now,
How do we hard line we need a contract?
yeah, right now, the hospitals reached out to the sanitary district to understand what is minimally required by their standards, with the goal of them taking on that water line that gets replaced
Right,
at the end of the project, once it's said and done.
Yeah.
That's the hospitals. That's for their best interest. They'd like to see that happen and work to meet the standard. So they're just trying to make sure what is the minimum standard
They've
and,
known the standards from day
Exactly.
1.
Why is it?
They've already, the water district has already conveyed to them what the standard is.
so they had a bit of an issue this summer that I think had caused reconsideration for the size of the pipe and the way things flow. They had a major line break at the hospital, had a major break in there, and they
Yeah.
had to basically shut water down to the whole point. Because they started turning valves and this didn't turn anything off. They went to the
Yeah.
next one. That did, so they went all the way out to Bristol Road and turned it all off. And so they're trying to, with the design, that's why they've added the new valves and changed the pipe sizes and account for what they've learned as a result
Are
of
the
that
new
break.
valves on phase 1 or 2?
Both.
Both. Okay.
There's a-
For secondary, keeping water
But
going.
that's our problem. That's Miles's.
Well, it
It is, but it isn't.
monetarily
Yeah.
is right, but
Right,
it holds up the process. If
Right.
We're ready, we're gonna do phase 1, we're ready to go.
right.
but
And if they haven't bought all the right equipment to
Yeah.
deal with the
Yeah.
water, then
Yeah, they're just trying to figure out now where they're, but once it's opened up. They're married to it. There's there's a lot of unknowns in there. They ran into stuff last year where say you're shutting valves off and things aren't shutting off where they're supposed to be. They don't have a map of what's in there. So once that's excavated and opened up, it's gonna be,
and do the
then,
engineers,
okay, this is what we need to
and
do.
are the
So these
engineers
all-
having trouble understanding what needs to be done?
I think the bar continues to change and there's feed input that keeps coming in that says this needs to happen. We need to add this, we need to add that. And so I think there was a design put in place back, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
yeah,
not
some things,
adequate for the demands that are now there.
I don't think they were gonna build it, the water system to the standards that the water district wanted.
Yeah.
To take over.
so I think it's
Because there's
adequate.
a significant,
Sounds like the parking lot.
yeah.
It's adequate
significant.
today. It's
Yeah.
just there's some issues with being able to map it out and understand what valves turn what off. The size of pipe that's in there now, it can't be, if you're gonna replace it, increase the diameter of that pipe now, but I think it's 6 inch going in there for the most part. And so they called for 8 inch and the engineers are under the impression that that is suitable. But there's a consideration for going to 12-inch, and the cost of going from an 8-inch pipe to a 12-inch pipe is pretty substantial
I bet.
on the price of material alone.
We really don't have any choice if you're supplying that whole peninsula.
Well, and that's where the standards are important, right? And so
Yeah.
and you know what's built there, you know what the demand is, you got usage
Right.
history. So, and again, so that's what they're working through now, is to say what's truly needed, what's ideal, what's truly needed at a
And
minimum.
what does the water district want?
You're keeping them. Keep prodding them,
All
Andy.
last minute. Oh, my God. When are we gonna get this done?
Parking lot project, we, this week we met with the contractor that EDA has, that's been our point, person, I think, for the whole project so far, Kai. And we met with his supervisor who sits in on the committee meeting that will be presenting the revised scope. They were both there before, but we didn't meet with the two of them before the last meeting. So there were some questions that probably could have been answered ahead of time, and they could have gone in with the answers for that meeting. So we are at a point now where we think they're clear when they're presenting it to the committee on our behalf, what we're doing, what we're asking for. I think that was very a good meeting. Max sat in on that as well. So we'll submit that this week, the revised stamped preliminary engineer report, along with our cover letter that talks about the economic impacts. Our benchmarks for economic impacts were really to retain the jobs that are there now by preserving and mitigating the flood risk down in there. So we're capturing that still. There's no tie, or as it was approved before, there was no tie or expectation to meet. I think this is one of the questions that came up. Our benchmark wasn't to eliminate flood insurance costs to businesses. That was a goal that would be ideal. But it wasn't a benchmark that was set for EDA to expect us to adhere to. And I think they were thinking it was. So we clarified that on the meeting.
And that building
hopefully
sold anyway. There was a
hopefully we're
building
good to
that
go.
just sold down there, and it sold anyway, whether there's flooding or not.
Right. So the improvements we're doing, even though we're not going for a built FEMA approved, built wall. I mean, they're still carrying a cost for and a planning on the deployable wall. So we have it. And they're carrying that at least. And so we're hoping that that'll appease the reviewers to say we are still meeting. We're still having that catchment system under the parking lot that can handle the rainwater that might collect at a high tide event, that it can't flow out. It can hold it from the catch basins that are feeding into it. And they'll have check valves on that. So when the tide recedes, the water will be able to flow out. There'll be some maintenance costs on our end to realize, probably for the filters that are going to be within that. I can't fully appreciate what that is, but at the moment, but it totally depends on what you get for weather and what's going into it. So hopefully that's
So have we increased our budget to deal with that maintenance cost? Not yet.
not yet.
Every 2 or 3 years is
Yeah. So the timeline, if this goes forward and gets approved, reviewed in March, realistically, based on what we've had in the past 2 years, 3 years with this effort, my guess is best case scenario, we hear by the end of April. If we do hear by the end of April, the engineers think it's possible they could get something out to bid before summer or by summer.
Wow.
Oh
'Cause
my God.
remember last year, it was supposed to be 1st of March, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They were
Wow.
What project is this? Are we still doing the bars?
Wow. Imagine that. We'll be
So-
ready to put it to bed 1st of March.
I
haven't-
Sorry, Andy, this.
I haven't given the engineers the green light to start putting those bid specs together yet until we hear back, because I don't want to pay for
Oh.
more engineering fees until
Yeah.
then we have to, until we know for certain.
Thank
I think the only ones that winning on this is the engineers.
There's been a few, a little bit spent there.
Oh,
So
And then
there's no way they can do it like after Pumpkin Fest, because then it gets too cold.
there's certainly some work that can be done depending if we had a winter like we did this year again. I mean, they were digging on Egypt Road in January.
That's-
so,
they're still digging now when they plow over the top of the culverts and then.
Yeah.
Woo!
uh,
Hey, Daryl?
Keep your speed down.
So I think if that stays on that tight schedule, they're anticipating being done by the end of 2024 if we're able to adhere to all that schedule.
Okay.
We have, I think, ultimate deadline with the EDA, I think, is April of 25. That's 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
So fingers crossed.
5 years, yeah. 25.
Don't even worry about it. It's all come together.
We're all gonna be dead by the time. this
I
thing gets
might,
done.
maybe I'll start some hair growth medicine and see what happens first. Do I get a full head of hair or does the
I
parking
think
lot get
you're
done?
gonna have
Not
hair.
taking the odds on
Yeah.
that one. Andy, you're just the messenger. I know, sorry.
No, we're not faulting you, Andy. We're just,
No, it just
I know, it's,
heard everything so far.
it's the point where we're.
Yep.
You have
We have to laugh
you have
about
to
it.
laugh about it. It's like, oh my God, this project started and it's just, yeah, okay. Anyway, good news.
Church Street, just kind of at a previous meeting, board motioned and allowed me to seek grant opportunities for Church Street. I'm looking at trying to put together a CDS or an earmark or a congressional project request that would include Church Street, potentially Business Route 1 project, the multi-use bylane that's been being planned. There should be a public process for seeing the preliminary plan soon. They were anticipating March to be ready to share that. And so it's preliminary, but we're on the hook for 20% of that project costs. And there was an assumption, you know, net project estimate, and it's over that at the moment based on the estimates they have today. So I have a meeting with DOT staff tomorrow, I believe, to just understand how they're paying for their share of the project. And if they're using, you know, congressional funds, we probably can't use congressional funds for our share. If they're funding it through some other means, we might be able to include that potentially as a use of that funding source. And then would like to include Hodgson Street to try and get over the hill behind the cemetery and back to church again
Yeah.
in this submittal.
Mhm.
So, and there was a possibility, I did meet with a couple of nonprofits to see if, in the spirit of making sidewalks and a more walkable community, you know, the possibility of including a couple of nonprofit projects.
right,
That's probably going to hinge on the possibility of where the funding source would funnel through. And if we start talking about trails, there's a possibility that would funnel through land conservation water like funding sources, which we're not in good standing with at the moment still.
Oh,
So I might need to steer clear of the trail work potentially. They could certainly look to apply if that's where it's
Right.
likely to come from, but we wouldn't be
I
getting
thought
that.
I thought the Y was gonna help us out to get it straightened out.
We're working on it. Max had helped facilitate a meeting with Doug Beck, who the town's met with before and didn't have good forward progress, but there's a couple of irons in the fire at the moment between a couple of partners, so it won't be quick. You know, it'll be probably another year or two if we can depending on what we're finding as a solution.
Yeah.
Because you still have to have the appraisal, you have to identify your site. And you have to have a couple of sites in case the one you pick isn't going to be high enough value. You got to get an appraiser and you have to have an appraiser appraise their work. So it's a little bit of a process still, but we're still trying to find a way to make it work so we can get in good standing and access those funds in the future if we want.
mhm. That's important.
Bill updates in the legislature. LD 88 is one that
Saw that one. That was
should
interesting.
intrigue Damariscotta a little bit. I don't know where it goes. Not the first time it's been put forward, but there's a request again at the legislature to have a local to establish a local government cannabis revenue fund in which some of the sales tax on the products sold in town would come back to the municipalities in which
yeah.
they exist.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a long shot or not, but it's not the first time it's been put up. So it's just something that's,
State doesn't like giving money back.
yeah, just something worth keeping an eye on. Should that happen?
Like the local sales tax. was
It could be, yeah. I think there's,
3 or 4, right? Is it 4?
I think there's 4 altogether at the moment. George, our code officer, said he's been getting calls about the potential for one of the ones that's not used.
Yeah, the recreational one, there's
yeah.
one that's not.
So.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, planning services, I'm just circling back. I signed a contract with MCOG. I held off on the other one. I just got this afternoon and didn't have a chance before the meeting to write a memo, but I wanted to write a memo. I reached out to 2 other entities in addition to the draft contract I had received. There's a range in hourly rates ranging from $48 an hour to $65 an hour. There's a range in the familiarity of our project and where it stands now. And so with my goals are keeping it within what we can afford, trying to keep it going forward without stalling or delaying as much as we can. And then when could the entity start?
Mhm.
You know, if it's gonna, yeah, we can do it and we can do it in 12 months, but we can't start for 3, right? To me, in my mind, I think I want to try and keep that committee going and try and keep this this process going forward as it was, with a tentative draft completion date, I think of July of 24, as it was built out. It's what Isabella built out as a
Just
staff.
be like the parking lot.
Could be. A lot of it hinges on, drafting it and having committee input and agreeing on what it is. I mean, the community has to approve a comp plan, so they need to show up, participate. There is a survey available on the website at the moment. It takes you to the Social Pinpoint website that's unique to the comp plan effort. So if folks haven't had a chance to do that, encourage them to do that and have
Has it been announced in the paper?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty certain it's been in the newsletter. I think she
Yeah,
advertised it in the
Read in the
paper.
newsletter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
So
not else, Lincoln County News.
I thought they did, but we
I
can
thought
double
they
check.
did. They did.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
Piece there.
That was a
yeah.
while back, I think, when we first talked about it, I think.
I mean, it gets low traffic, but our Facebook page, it's been advertised on there before, and that's open until I believe July, or closer to the summer. So there's plenty of time still. I think the library called, or someone from the library called and said that they've ran out of print version there. So we'll trying to get some more printed and down to the library. So folks
Oh,
have been
That's
Okay.
good.
using them for something at least, hopefully
Yeah.
filling them out and dropping them. But I'm inclined to go with and sign a contract with the consultant that can deliver within those parameters, within the budget and the timeline to keep it moving forward. If you'd like more information on that, I can write up a more formal memo that captures all of that just to share that with you, but just wanted to bring it back before I signed anything and let you know what I found out.
Yeah, if you can just be good to just put it out so we can see it.
Mhm. All right.
All right.
So.
Solar and Boston Post Cane. I want to talk about that before I forget. Boston Post Cane, someone from the Historical Society had come in. Actually, 2 people have now come in, asking if we'd be okay with loaning out the Boston Post Cane to someone who would create a replica, in which it would be presented again to the individual worthy of receiving that, the oldest resident in the town. But instead of sending out the actual Boston Post cane and in fear of having it come back for a while, it sounds like it had been missing for a few years in the past. And so now it just sits in our vault.
Didn't know we still had one.
But if the board's okay with that, the Historical Society would like to get back in the habit of presenting that again, and they'd like
Yeah.
someone to make a replica of it, to then
Sounds
go with the individual that would be worthy of having that. Sure. So if the board's okay with letting that be out on loan to have that done, and it's
Yeah.
a good year to maybe try and bring it back, with the milestone of 175 years old.
That's cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Try and
The
bring that.
town manager's responsible for its well-being, so if it
Uh,
disappears.
They're gonna pay for
I
it.
think that.
They are, yeah, it's my
That's for
understanding.
The organization.
And they'd actually like to entertain the possibility of when they're ready to have it at their Historical Society building on display in a case.
Yeah.
Again, right now it lives in our vault.
Mhm.
No one sees it. The staff worry it falls out. It'll fall out sometimes. But it is a piece that at one point a lot of towns received and some still do it regularly.
Yeah, we still do it in the
yeah.
area. I didn't know when's the last time do you remember?
My grandmother's 103.
Really?
Yeah.
So, yeah, if
In the
folks are-
running.
if you're okay with that, I'll
Yeah.
let them know tomorrow that they can come grab that and make the replica, and
Yeah, that sounds good.
we'll wait for more.
Rush on it.
Yeah. Solar expansion. That's one I know has been talked about in the past. It hasn't been a top priority of mine. I don't know for the board where it sits. We're just trying to get more information before we have something more to present. But we have our array at the the old landfill that's
Mhm.
capped. There was some interest of the school to try and find a way to lower the electric costs for them, which gets passed through the taxpayers. We're a lion's share of the school budget. And that's how it was presented.
Okay.
I'm interested in making sure that any future energy needs the town has, town government has, could be still built out. And that we don't consider
Mhm.
closing the door on that, or we don't find ourselves in a situation where there's still space in the future, but as a result of, maybe the smaller expansion, we then end up losing, having to front more money because we got to do a more substantial upgrade there. So right now there's room to expand the system without a significant upgrade on things.
Okay.
It might be another inverter,
Mhm.
but you're not talking about upscaling the power to system that's entering the property there. So, for a relatively low cost, and I think the school had expressed an interest because they want to know what the capacity, what the opportunity there is, but we could put in an application with CMP. There's a phase one, which more or less is just lets them know we're interested. You can go to phase two, which gets a little more detail and a little more information out of it. What's the opportunity, can they accept more? Because, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but when solar projects are going in right now, the local substations can only take in so much before they need an upgrade.
Yeah.
And so depending on whether your project hits that limit, you're on the hook for it if you want to proceed. And so I think finding out where would we stand on this substation, in the area here, what's the opportunity on the site? They'll do a quick assessment of the site. I know we had issues before about there were some dips in the landfill cap that we had to fill. My understanding is that those were filled. And so keeping an eye on that, but they're going to have to go back through and look at that again. So if we're able to split the cost with the school, we're not talking a large number, and we can utilize that. We have a professional service type fee in the public works budget or highway budget that I'd propose utilizing, if the board's okay with that, just to learn more about what the opportunity is. I know right now when it's producing 12 months out of the year, we're using it meets about 80%, I believe, of our power usage. In the only 12-month period it ran completely without being down. So I think it's something worth looking at and understanding, like, can we add more arrays? How,
Absolutely.
whether how we pay for it, we can talk more about it in the future, but
Absolutely.
just to be able to get our foot in the door on this and understand a little bit more about it. I'll let them know that we can try and proceed there. I think both entities are looking at some significant budget discussions this year. So I don't know that the reality of any construction in the next 12 months is likely, but at least understanding, more about this is something I think is worth pursuing.
Whether we should go forward now, and we should look at it.
Great. That sounds good. All I had in my updates.
So did we have to have a motion here for transfer of ownership?
We're gonna go through right now. We've got a few actions we've
Oh,
got to
okay.
take. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I should have had the foresight to include it following the special town meeting. I had the documents with me, and the special town meeting gave the authority to the select board to be able to sign those agreements, and I normally would have just had them on there, but just didn't think about including them on the regular agenda. So
There's too much dust in your.
we are circling back on that one. So for the board to officially consider the transfer of ownership and the easement, the sewer trustees meet next week. So we can bring that to them if the board's so inclined to do that.
if there's any objection to that or that
No.
point, so. I'll make a motion to approve and sign the agreement regarding the transfer of ownership.
Second.
You let me finish. Sewer lines and Damariscotta Municipal Parking Lot, the Great Salt Lake City District. All right. Okay, I think Tom seconded that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. And I'll do the same here with the sewer easement. We'll make a motion to approve and grant the prepared sewer easement to the Great Salt Bay Sanitary District.
Yes.
All right, Andrew's got that. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, motion carries. So there, is that sewer lines are?
They need to approve it.
Maybe,
They need.
Yeah, we just
they gotta sign, they gotta sign them.
fix it.
Done wood. All right. You got one more here, right?
Yes.
I'm thinking it might be good. I mentioned the CDS project. I mean, they want to make sure it's clear that there was that motion. I didn't include Hodgson Street before or Business Route 1 project if we can do it. So I think just in case, because I think that those are due March 15th, I believe.
Okay.
So we got to hustle to get that put together. But if the board wanted to consider it just for good measure to give us the authority to submit a CDS funding request.
Time to do it.
We'll make time.
He doesn't need to sleep.
We'll make time.
We're gonna sign.
This is,
It's overrated.
I'll make that motion to authorize the town manager to submit a CDS request for various town projects.
Second.
Thank you, Andrea. Any discussion? Oh, all those in favor? Okay.
We already.
You're just
moved
getting
on to
things
that.
ready.
Get ready.
What?
Andrew,
Andrea seconded. Yep. Okay, is that it for actions?
it is.
I think we're
You
good.
have to sign that, Stuart.
Yeah, we've got some stuff to sign there. All right, I think that's it. So we can go through, yeah, we don't have any more boards or meetings. I think we're
That's all
Yeah.
special.
yeah, so special ones. We can start down on, Tom, do you have any discussion items this evening?
What's?
Well, I was going to mention something, but in light of all these other large
Right.
issues, I don't think I will, but I've been talking to some people about the lack of shellfish, soft shell plants in the area that used to be very prevalent with them, and they're looking at the Waldeboro situation and just throw out the possibility of the town considering a moratorium on the location of new aquaculture on the river, because it's all being done around the area that's affecting the shellfish. And there's a guy who's on the commission named Bob Wallace. He's fished the area for 46 years. And he can tell you how it's all deteriorated over time. But the fact is that the river's 14 and a half miles long or something. And there are a lot of very successful oyster farmers downriver. I mean, way down. In fact, I think my favorite is Clinton Point, and that's quite a ways down.
Right.
And the whole issue is the convenience of them getting to the town dock. But I think there's also an effect on other things like aquaculture, the shellfish. And that's what Waldeboro's seen. And there's a Canadian study that's like 150 pages long where they talk about oyster farming affecting the shellfish. And it's pretty conclusive.
How
So,
much shellfish fishing do we actually have in the river?
well, it was all around. the
used to be
end of
quite a
our-
bit.
Yeah. Used to be quite a
But
bit.
now it's
And,
predominantly
soft-shell
oysters.
clams are more valuable than
Mhm.
for the fishermen.
Yeah.
They get more money for it. So this particular fellow has been on the commission for I don't know how long, but he's fired up. And I'm wondering whether or not we ought to bring Darling back with him and have them meet with.
Say they've got some great data they've collected
Yeah.
over the last few years. I think
They
they
didn't
can come in
mention
and
that.
present.
They
Yeah,
did mention that the last time they were saying it was all green crabs.
Right.
yeah.
We talked to Bob Wallace. He says he can tell you how green crabs have changed over time. I mean, he's out there
Yeah,
3 times
yeah.
a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, green crabs are bad, right?
Yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, yeah, and basically,
And they're affecting the shellfish, but not the oysters.
No, they don't. Well, the oysters are on the surface in cages. For the
Say
most
the
part.
suspended aquaculture seems more
Besides that,
protected. Yeah.
the green crabs can't crack an oyster shell. They can crack the soft shell clams. But
So we-
that's the primary reason. The filtration by the oysters is killing the feed for the shellfish. If you listen to him.
Oh,
interesting. Okay.
But the whole thing is that you can accommodate both. You just don't have to put it all in the same spot. You got a lot of space on the river. That's it.
then we should have a
Tom?
present, if we're interested, then we should have a presentation on it.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it'd be best to have Darling here at the same time.
Darling's done some great, yeah, they
Yeah.
brought some great presentations in, so and they have data. Yeah, pretty good. So. Thank you,
I'm
Tom.
more than willing to listen.
I
to
have
something
nothing.
like that.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh, I was expecting something.
You want to tell us about your Florida trip?
No,
Well, I'm gonna be gone to Florida for 7 days.
well, good for you. Yeah.
Leave the 7th, get back the 14th.
Enjoy.
Time for
Yeah.
the meeting.
Andrea, discussion items?
No, not today.
Not tonight. John?
I got one.
Got one. All right.
Do you know when they're gonna start the roundabout on Route 1?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's in the
There's
25 work plan.
Oh,
Yeah.
not
I think they had
today.
money for 20 years, starting like 2023, I think, with some of the financial.
They had it earmarked. They had the
Yeah.
financials done. Yeah.
Is that the one?
It's on my list to talk to them about tomorrow.
Mhm.
With DOT, because if you think about the DOT projects in town, I mean, they are a little spread out, but the roundabout, at the north end there, the multi-use by lane between Hannaford's property line and the school.
Mhm.
school street intersections on the radar to have some, at least a temporary solution put in place before they can come up with something more permanent. They're supposed to put those tough curbing with the delineators up this for this summer. or
Do we
maybe-
know when Piper Mills is gonna start?
No, not this time, no.
Okay.
And then in the work plan is to do, I think, some drainage work this summer on Bristol Road. I saw on their work plan, and
okay,
then
yeah.
LCP next year on Bristol. I think there's another one. There's been a request to consider a traffic light at Hannaford. I've been talking with representatives from Hannaford at the moment on that, and so I want to, with all of that along the state aid road, or state highway, I wanted to try and know if does this, especially with the multi-use bike lane, with that request from Hannaford, with the light that's at Biskie now, like just to, can we look at this more comprehensively potentially? And I even threw out the idea of, should there be a turn lane from the intersection of Biskie on Business Route 1, like as far as this to Back Meadow potentially, seeing the backup during the day in the morning and afternoon for the school traffic, with that multi-use path going in where the cars currently can get off of the road a little bit, heading to school from town. That'll be more or less eliminated with that new path. And so it'll just make that a little bit worse. So just trying to look at it more than just a sidewalk or pedestrian project, but they're concerned about moving it into a transportation bigger project because it comes from a different pool of money and
tying
becomes
all that
more.
in.
So
Okay.
I just wanted to meet with Stephen Cole's going to help pull that together with us and the pedestrian, what used to be Patrick Adams. He left and went to a different agency, but his replacement, the new person that heads that agency up is going to meet with us about that. So I just want to understand, how does this all play together? And it's all happening potentially within the next 3 years. And
And who wants the light at Hannaford?
representatives from Hannaford have reached out to see if that's something that would be what the process would be.
About a roundabout there.
They've been talking with folks at DOT, and so I just want to make sure that we're all talking to the same folks within the agency and that it's all connecting to each other. And I was even suggesting maybe, if future changes happen there, potentially, and with the idea of bringing the sidewalk up at some point, someday from Main Street and connecting it up through there.
Can we
Extend maybe through the Hannaford's property if there's some potential for work that might happen there? And then where the TIF district was created originally, that Camden Plaza property, at some point, they're supposed to put a sidewalk in. So, eventually we're getting further down the road. But if we can potentially stretch that other one through the Hannaford's property instead of stopping short of it.
when and if you meet with them and get a feel for what they're doing, and they're prepared, can we have them come in for a presentation at some point? If you've got enough information and they've got a plan and it kind of ties together. I mean, I'm not talking soon, but
Mhm.
it'd be a year from now, but
Right.
when they presented the roundabout, it was very helpful. They came in and gave us some projections and what the state was planning. It was nice to have a representative of the state to come in to kind of give us an idea what's going on. And that was what?
2 years ago.
2 years ago? Years ago, so.
I had the engineer speechless when you left.
Yeah. They did a good
remember.
presentation, but it was, yeah.
I can't remember if the roundabout was 24/25 or if it was specifically in one of those years, but I'll ask again. And
Yeah.
was there anything in particular you want me to relay or just generally?
No, just people keep asking when they're gonna have to slow down.
Yeah. Now is good.
Yeah, slow down. So,
Don't wait for the roundabout.
It's gonna take me to go. I said, well, they had it, it's like 10.1 seconds or
I
something.
say
That'd be a trip.
I think it's estimated at 150 feet wide, the roundabout. I think I saw
yeah,
somewhere.
so-
It's a big one, so you shouldn't, I mean, you'll have to slow down, but I think I thought like the
There-
desired
you go-
speed,
You can go higher speed this
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, they
I thought it was like 40 or 35 or something.
their presentation, I think we were all
They're vicious. Yeah.
impressed.
Yeah, something
It
so
was,
vicious.
it was well, I mean, the data was hard to argue with. So
Right.
like your skepticism, like, they talking about a roundabout, but once they presented it, okay, it was very interesting. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't have
Yeah,
anything to add.
we went around.
Went around, yeah. Before we adjourn, do we give you enough to, ask the young man in the audience here, so
Kind
Yeah.
of glazed.
got what you need? Yeah. We'll make sure you get your badge. Oh, yeah. We appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us. So, so I have nothing to add. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah. Andrew seconds, give it to Andrea.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, all those in
Get there
favor?
First is fine with me.
See you next Wednesday, right?
Yes, next Wednesday, we have everything
4:30.
4:30.
4:30 again.
Just a budget meeting?
Yes.